What's happening, people? If you haven't already, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. So let's talk about what happens when you die. Okay, so when you die, my opinion is, unfortunately, you go into the abyss. You just rot, and that's it. Because the thing is, before you was brought onto this earth, right? Nobody can explain that phenomenon. Nobody can explain this sensation before birth, right? So the same thing must happen after you die. You must feel nothing. There must just be some sort of emptiness. That's the only explanation. However, Christians believe that Jesus risen from the dead, and there's some sort of afterlife. So your soul goes into existence. So your body dies, but your soul stays alive. Is another argument as well. But it's a very interesting. It's the million dollar question that everybody wants to know. What happens when you die? Like, does your soul really live on, and does your body go, and does your soul go somewhere else? Because the brain, really, it's about your brain. Your body can't function because your brain's got all the neurological senses. So once your brain goes, your heart goes, your body goes, everything depletes. So scientifically speaking, is how can there be existence after death? It doesn't make sense. You know, like I said, like before you're born, like there is no human being that can reiterate what happens before you're born. Like, there's nothing, is there? It's just emptiness, and then you just start your life. So I can only assume the same thing would happen when you die. You just turn into emptiness, and you just have no memory, nothing. And a lot of people, there has been case studies out there where, because people do die for a couple of minutes. For example, where people resuscitate them and they come back to life, for example, right? And people often describe the experience as obviously their body shuts down, and then they just basically see a light in the far distance. They see a light in the far distance, and that can maybe explain what it feels like to die. So maybe you're just looking at a constant light, like you're in some sort of mesmeric estate, um, and all you can see is a light, but nothing else works in your body. You haven't got any thoughts or any sense. You haven't got any smell. You haven't got any touch. You just see a light, which is very calming. And a lot of people do describe as well, when they've had these near-death experiences, that it's a sense of relief. A lot of them feel very chilled, and like it was a very nice experience. So yeah, I think that's what happens. I think we just sort of subconsciously focus on some sort of light, and that's us done, and the body just rots away. But like I said, if you've got a religious belief, they may think differently. They may think that the soul extends further past the body, and maybe the soul goes into another human being, and they obviously reiterate their life, and they obviously start their life again. But yeah, I thought this was a very interesting topic anyway. Definitely room for debate. If it was interesting, consider subscribing to my channel. Peace.